Hi everybody, this is a screencast for your asynchronous learning for week 10 for developing sport in education module. As soon as you've logged on to MyHallam and you access the module developing sport in education, which is here, if you click on learning materials, this will take you into a folder where it says 2020-21. If you click into this, you'll see there will be some links to 3 different sessions. Okay, the first one is week 10. So if you click into this will then take you through to the 3 types of sessions that we are delivering for the blended learning. Okay, there is the online seminar, which will be available to you next week. There is the asynchronous session, and then there is the face-to-face session content, which is to be added. For this screencast, I want you to click onto the asynchronous session. If you click into this is going to take you through to a Padlet, which I've come up with, to which there are going to be numerous tasks for you to go through in your own time, but preferably before the face-to-face teaching sessions if possible. So I've created a timeline on the Padlet, so as soon as you've completed one task I want you to move on to the next and to the next and to the next, etc. So you'll be able to see how many there are. Okay, these are for you to do in your own time, so should be about an hour's worth of content here for you to do. So your first task is following on from the online seminar, is getting you to still reflect upon your PE and school sport in education experience. So in your breakout rooms you were given a scenario of you reflecting on your time, whether it was primary or secondary or sixth form or college or university. In this task I want you to think about all the stages of education that you've been in so far. Okay, so considering the discussions that we've had, and think about what changes, developments you can identify, what were the positives and what were the negatives. Okay, and again, don't just think about your experience, but think about experiences of others who you might have been at school with or at college with. Think about those who didn't like PE and at sport, who didn't get involved. Okay, that is your first task, and that's just for you to make notes wherever you're going to access your notes for the future, whether that's handwritten, whether that's online, whether that's Google Docs, whatever works for you. Okay. Your second task is to watch this video of Kes. So some of you might know it as a well-known film, you might have watched it, but this is what we're going to call current Kes versus current, okay, with regards to physical education and practice. So what I want you to do is watch the video, and the video YouTube should take you straight through to the link for the video, is to watch the video and identify and make notes of 10 thoughts that you associate as either positive or negative in those PE sessions, okay? And then again, compare these to your reflections of your experiences from task 1. Okay, I want you to see whether there's any similarities and any differences, and why you think that this might have been, and because of what. Okay, is it funding that's gone into education? Is it the quality of the teaching? Is it the quality of the equipment? Okay, so there's just some starters there. So if you get more than 10, brilliant, but think about how you might then bring this into a discussion. Your third task is you undertaking some research into a school sport partnership. Okay, so they are a big part of the education system within the country, maybe known as something different within the area that you're from. But within Sheffield, there are 4 school sports partnerships, and they are called Arches, Links, Forge, and Points. Some of you might have done some work for them, whether that's coaching or volunteering. Okay. It's down to you to research into one that you know of, so that might have been one that you were involved with from where you're from. Okay, so what I want you to think about is, what is the partnership's aims? What are they there to do? And each partnership should have some similar ones, but they might have some different ones as well, depending on the size of them. There is no consistent approach to how a partnership is run anymore. Okay, and that's what we're going to discuss a bit in the face-to-face session as well. So just have a look at the partnerships and answer questions such as how many schools and what types. So by type I mean, are they special educational needs school? Do they have private schools attached to them? Do they work in rural areas? Okay, do they work primary and secondary? Lots of information there that you need to think about. Okay, think about who they work with. What are their key partners? So, for example, Arches will do a lot with Sheffield International venues. They might do a lot of work with the national governing bodies, so football, tennis, netball, hockey, etc. They might work with the police. They might work with the fire service. So have a look to see what they do and who they work with. All right, and then what else I want you to see and look into is who works the school sport partnership. So have a look to see what jobs people do within that partnership. Okay, what are the job titles? What's their roles and responsibilities for those individuals there? Okay, your fifth task on this is what key phrases and terminology can you find that the organisation uses. So I've given you an example there of every child matters. So you'll see key phrases throughout the website and throughout their content there. So what are the key things that are coming up again and again in terms of language and terminology for you to use? All right, once you start looking, you should be able to find out what type of projects and programs and initiatives they run. All right, so in Archers, they've got a big swimming program. They do a lot of work with the Sheffield and Hallamshire County FA. They might have a leadership project. So up to you to find out what they do. Think about what ages they're for, what they do, how long they run for, where do they get the funding from. Okay, because a lot of education programs are reliant on funding. So in the current climate of COVID, those might be stopping. So what are schools going to try and do to continue those projects that they've relied on funding for? Okay, list them, read into them, make a note on what they do. And then I want you to do for your last task on this is to select one of those that you think you might be interested in and then move on to the next task. Okay. Your next task is linked to Sport England and the 5 outcomes, okay, which you will have covered in teaching in first year. So those are physical well-being, mental well-being, individual development, social and community development, and economic development. Okay, so the 5 outcomes. And again, if you click on this link, it will take you through to those outcomes. So what I want you to do is think about how the programme that you've selected in the previous task fits into the 5 outcomes of Sport England. Okay, so can you identify where and how? So, for example, a swimming project might very much fit into the mental well-being and physical well-being for those children, okay, and young people. Definitely will hit individual development. How does it fit into social and community development? Okay, there are a number of pools across Sheffield that will fit into local communities. So how does that help with that development there? All right, so that's your task for that one. And then the last task is really just just getting your head around what the difference in terminology is that we're going to utilise within this module as well. I'm just going to see if I can. Oh, it goes on a bit too quickly here. So in essence, sorry about that, everybody. If I move on this way, is getting you to think about what are the differences between physical education, physical activity, and school sport. So without having a look at the definitions that I've given you, which I've given you a bit there, just have a think about what you think those might be. Okay, what do you think PE is? What do you think physical activity is? And what do you think school sport is? Once you've done that, these are the definitions for you. And again, these are given by an organisation called the Association of Physical Education, better known as AFPE. Okay, so physical education is absolutely to do with the planned progressive learning that takes place in the school curriculum timetable. So think back to your PE lessons when they were structured, it was delivered to everybody. Okay, what is on your curriculum is about the physical education. So think about primary, think about secondary, think about further education if you did PE at A level. Okay, so in essence, it's about physical education is about you learning to move. So becoming physically competent, as it says here. So thinking about a different range of skills, understanding space, cooperating with each other in terms of teamwork, tactics, etc. So the context for the learning is physical activity. So we're wanting children to experience a broad range of activities, which include sport and dance. So that sport and dance is quite key. So go back to your reflections of primary, secondary. Did you have access to both sport and dance? Okay. Was it something that you were interested in? Was the PE teacher or whoever you taught you qualified, skilled? Were they confident and competent? All right. So that is physical education. Physical activity, again, using a definition from AFPE. It's absolutely a broad term referring to all bodily movement that uses energy. Okay, so includes all forms of physical education, sport and dance, but think about where you can do this. Okay, absolutely indoor and outdoor play. So work-related activity. So if you think about the education system and who works there, so your teaching staff, your teaching assistants, your caretakers, your lunchtime supervisors, dinner supervisors, etc. What is it that they can do with regards to physical activity in their work-related activity? So the curriculum has changed significantly over the years. there's more opportunity for students to undertake adventurous activities. So thinking about skateboarding, BMXing, skiing, etc. Okay, thinking about that active travel. So getting young people to cycle to work, to school, to maybe walk to school. Okay, instead of getting parents dropping the kids right outside the school doors, where can they drop them? Okay, it's about creating habits. So some examples there in terms of what we might do in terms of university is try and use the stairs as opposed to the lift. When you get home, can you do housework? Can you do gardening? So that mental and physical well-being as well. So that is physical activity. And then the third one, which I haven't put on, is school sport. So school sport is absolutely everything to do that is outside of the curriculum time. Okay, so that might be competition, that might be after school clubs. That isn't necessarily after school, that can be preschool as well. So think about the working day. Think about people whose parents might work, that have to take them to school to a breakfast club, and the types of activities that they would do there. Okay, it could involve leadership programs, it could involve lunch times. Okay, that is your school sport. So I will change that slide on there. Okay. And then your final task, there's quite a lot here, but this is going to get you ready for the session on your face-to-face. So I want you to think about your knowledge and understanding. So remembering back to level 4, your experiences of what organisations are involved in developing sport and education. And I want you to think about as many as you can from the public, private and third sector. Okay, so there's a couple of examples already provided within this session. Up to you to go and find out some more. Think about who you've worked with. Have you volunteered with anybody? Where you might go on placement. Okay, loads out there that you should be getting. All right, and that is your information for your asynchronous learning. Okay.